April 16, 1946. White Sands Proving Ground, New Mexico. Colonel Holger Toftoy stands in the desert heat, watching as American engineers prepare to launch a weapon his country didn't build. The sleek 46-foot missile towers above the assembly gantry, its black and white camouflage pattern still bearing German Luftwaffe markings. For 15 months, Allied forces had endured these rockets falling on London and Antwerp. Silent, supersonic, unstoppable. No warning, no defense. Now, one sits on American soil, fueled and ready. The question isn't whether it will fly. The question is whether American engineers have correctly reassembled a machine they're only beginning to understand. A machine that represents a technological leap their own rocket programs haven't even attempted.
The V-2's arrival without warning defined its terror. Unlike the V-1 flying bomb, whose distinctive pulse jet engine gave precious seconds of alert, the Vergeltung's Waffe-2 traveled at 3,580 miles per hour, faster than sound itself. Between September 1944 and March 1945, Germany launched over 3,000 of these ballistic missiles, killing approximately 9,000 people, and introducing psychological warfare on a scale never before imagined. The explosion arrived first. The thunderous roar of its passage followed seconds later, a reversal of natural order that left populations helpless. Allied attempts at defense proved futile. Early countermeasures assumed radio guidance that could be jammed. Analysis of debris revealed the chilling truth. The V-2 navigated by fully autonomous inertial guidance, immune to electronic interference. Military planners calculated that a massive anti-aircraft barrage might achieve a 3 to 10% intercept rate, while the falling shrapnel would cause more casualties than the missile itself. The only effective response was overrunning mobile launch sites on the ground. It was a tactical solution to what was fundamentally a technological humiliation. American rocketry in 1945 existed in a different universe. Robert Goddard had launched the world's first liquid-fueled rocket in 1926, but his work was largely ignored by the U.S. military. By war's end, America's most advanced effort was the WAC Corporal, a 16-foot research rocket weighing 660 pounds. Its very name was an acronym, Without Attitude Control. Its first successful flight in October 1945 reached barely half the V-2's altitude. The prevailing Allied view dismissed long-range missiles as inaccurate terror weapons, unworthy of resources better spent on radar and the atomic bomb. The V-2 wasn't just a superior weapon, it was proof of a doctrine of warfare for which the Allies were intellectually unprepared.
When American engineers began dissecting captured V-2 components at White Sands, they weren't examining an incremental improvement. They were studying a machine a full generation ahead of Allied technology. Every subsystem revealed elegant solutions to engineering challenges U.S. programs had barely conceptualized. The engine generated approximately 56,000 pounds of thrust, 10 times more powerful than any American rocket motor. This wasn't achieved through brute force, but through revolutionary innovation. The heart of the system was its turbopump, a 580 horsepower turbine that injected 128 pounds of alcohol-water fuel and 159 pounds of liquid oxygen into the combustion chamber every second. Rather than using heavy, pressurized tanks, the standard method, the V-2 employed a hypergolic reaction. Concentrated hydrogen peroxide, decomposed by sodium permanganate catalyst, produced superheated steam spinning the centrifugal pumps. This breakthrough allowed lightweight propellant tanks, dramatically improving the rocket's mass-to-fuel ratio and making its 200-mile range possible. The immense power created an equally daunting problem: heat. At combustion temperatures reaching 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit, the engine would melt itself within seconds. German engineers devised a two-part cooling system that American designers had never mastered. First, regenerative cooling circulated alcohol fuel through a double wall surrounding the engine nozzle. The fuel absorbed heat, cooling the structure before combustion, a process that also preheated the fuel for improved efficiency. Second, hypercooling bled a small amount of fuel through thousands of perforations in the combustion chamber's inner wall, creating a thin vapor layer that insulated the metal from the flame's core. The fuel itself became the coolant, an elegant solution American programs wouldn't achieve for years. Perhaps more impressive than the engine was the guidance system. The LEV-3 platform contained 3 free-running gyroscopes maintaining stable reference in pitch, yaw, and roll. This commanded 2 independent control systems. During the first seconds after liftoff, when the rocket moved too slowly for aerodynamic control, 4 graphite vanes mounted in the exhaust stream deflected the fiery plume to steer the vehicle. As it accelerated to supersonic speeds, control transferred to 4 rudders on the tail fins. An onboard analog computer, the Mischgerät, processed gyroscopic inputs and sent commands to hydraulic servos actuating these surfaces, keeping the rocket locked on its pre-programmed trajectory. To ensure accuracy, a separate gyroscopic accelerometer measured velocity. When precise speed for the desired range was reached, it triggered engine cutoff, a critical concept called guidance integrated propulsion termination. The entire system operated autonomously after launch, requiring no external input and thus remaining immune to jamming. For American evaluators, this represented systems integration on a level completely absent from fragmented U.S. rocketry efforts. The V-2's sleek, conical shape wasn't aesthetic. It was the product of pioneering supersonic wind tunnel research. Materials weren't exotic. Thin sheet steel for the body, aluminum-magnesium alloys for propellant tanks, but they were integrated into a structure both lightweight and strong enough to withstand 5G launch acceleration and supersonic flight. The true marvel was seamless integration of high-thrust, turbopump-fed engine, autonomous inertial guidance, and stable supersonic airframe into a single, functional, mass-producible weapon. It demonstrated holistic engineering philosophy American programs hadn't begun to develop.
The process of dissecting, reassembling, and flying the V-2 left American engineers with an inescapable conclusion. Germany's rocket program operated years ahead of Allied efforts. This wasn't opinion, it was engineering reality acknowledged in their own words. Colonel Toftoy, who orchestrated both Special Mission V-2 and Operation Paperclip, summarized with blunt clarity. By using German V-2 missiles, our designers will save years of research and millions of dollars. We profit by the 12 years of intensive German research and gain practical knowledge of what not to do, as well as what to do. It was frank admission the U.S. was acquiring not merely a weapon, but a technological shortcut leapfrogging a generation of costly development. A direct comparison transforms abstract notions of technology gap into concrete facts. The operational German V-2 weighed 28,000 pounds with 56,000 thrust, reaching 55 miles altitude with 200-mile range, guided by autonomous inertial navigation and turbopump propulsion. America's experimental WAC Corporal weighed 660 pounds with 1,500 pounds thrust, reaching 44.5 miles altitude on vertical trajectory only, with no guidance system and simple pressure-fed propulsion. Germany was deploying strategic weapon systems while America experimented with small research tools. The V-2 demonstrated mastery of integrated propulsion, guidance, and aerodynamics, completely absent in Allied programs. The V-2's lineage defined America's space age. Project Bumper mounted a WAC Corporal atop a V-2, creating the first large 2-stage rocket. On February 24, 1949, it reached 244 miles altitude, the first human object entering deep space, demonstrating multi-staging principles enabling all future satellite launches. The Army's Redstone missile, developed by von Braun's team at Huntsville Arsenal from 1950, became America's first operational ballistic missile and direct V-2 successor. A modified Redstone launched Explorer 1 in 1958, America's first satellite, answering Soviet Sputnik. In 1961, Mercury Redstone 3 carried Alan Shepard into space, marking America's first step in human spaceflight.
The V-2 was Nazi Germany's tactical failure, a wonder weapon consuming enormous resources for minimal military impact. Yet for the United States, its capture proved an unparalleled strategic windfall. The program at White Sands created an entire generation of American engineers with hands-on large-scale rocketry experience and became the direct technological wellspring for America's missile and space ages. In profound historical irony, a weapon forged in secrecy and slave labor to terrorize Allied cities became foundational technology for America's rise as aerospace superpower. The silent supersonic warning that first fell on London in 1944 was ultimately answered in the New Mexico desert, where American engineers, guided by their former enemies, tamed the V-2 and inherited the future of both warfare and the cosmos. The admission wasn't one of defeat. It was recognition that capturing the V-2 had accelerated American technology by a decade, transforming humiliation into unprecedented opportunity.